Hello. Chapter 19 is about data processing architectures. Three different types of architecture are introduced. Architectures are based upon whether you process data locally or remote, or data storage is local or remote. So for example, with a personal database, data storage is local, you store it on your personal computer, and processing is local, you also process on your local computer. The trend in enterprises these days is to move towards cloud computing, where data is stored remotely and much of the processing is also done remotely. The chapter also discusses the three-tier client server. This three tiers consists of a thin client or browser that issues a request to an application server, which then issues a request to a data server for particular records. And the DBMS on the data server retrieves those records from the DBMS, passes them back to the application server, which then passes them back to the thin client or browser on typically a personal computer. The chapter considers the four types of cloud interfaces based upon the community's involvement in API development. Remember that API means Application Programming Interface, and also the API's usage by third parties. And you can see four different types of cloud interfaces illustrated in this diagram. These are discussed in more detail in the chapter. Cloud computing can be seen as a cost reduction method, but more importantly, it should be seen as an opportunity to gain a competitive advantage by addressing one or more of the five strategic risks that face all companies. Demand risk is when there's fluctuating demand or market collapse. Simply, nobody wants to buy your product. Inefficiency risk comes from failing to match competitors' unit costs. So your costs of doing business are higher, and therefore your profit per unit is lower. The innovation risk comes from not innovating as well as competitors. That is, you take longer to introduce new products and services, and they take away market share from you. Scaling is a risk when you can't scale fast enough and efficiently enough to meet market growth. Therefore, again, you lose market share to competitors. And finally, there's control risk. That is when you have inadequate procedures for acquiring or managing new resources. Therefore, you might acquire the wrong resources or make poor use of these resources. Cloud computing is a way to overcome each of these strategic risks. And this is discussed in more depth in the chapter. Finally, we look at distributed database. The case for distributing a database is made, and the design principles for a distributed database are discussed. I hope you enjoy Chapter 19. Thank you.